concerns. But if you have a child that is still between 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, please listen. Wait, let's talk about this. It occurred to me to make this video because yesterday we had a very long conversation of an hour plus on YouTube, TikTok, and Zoom. And it got me thinking, even though I've been subtly doing this, but it is not like I've been intentional. It was while the speech was going on that it occurred to me that this is something that we have to be very intentional about. A lot of us are hoping that someday our children will be grown-ups, they will have their own homes, they will cook their own foods, they will have their own lives. But how are we preparing for that? How are we getting both ourselves and our children ready for that? A lot of research has gone on in when it comes to, having healthy nutritional status and even generally speaking, being healthy. And a lot of us as parents, we are so engrossed in getting them to speak, getting them to be in school, getting them to, just be neurotypical, that we forget that when that thing we hope for eventually happens, there might be very important areas of their lives we have not been able to prepare them for. This was prompted by a research that says that a lot of children, a lot of people with mild disability, don't forget, I have in mind the fact that some children cannot just help themselves. But the research says that a lot of children with disabilities do not have good nutrition just because their nutrition is at the mercy of their carer. This means that if the carer do not give them food, they do not know how to get themselves fed. They cannot prepare food for themselves. They don't even know the right food to eat. They can't even, help themselves around the kitchen. So while we were talking about parents with autism having their children prepared for independence, we tend to overlook this area of providing themselves with the right nutrition. I believe strongly in the right nutrition because you are eventually what you eat. So this day yesterday, which was yesterday evening, we had a very long discussion talking about how are we as parents working towards what we believe will happen at some point. We believe that at some point our children will be able to fend for themselves, will be able to be independent in terms of being able to express themselves, being able to, just live on their own. But how often do we consciously prepare them to be able to find their own food, feed themselves, prepare their own food, have them sorted and, make them available for themselves? A lot of our children are in their need of proper nutrition. But as much as we want to give them the best, we consult the nutritionist, we consult the pediatrician, we are out there running the test and preparing the food, getting the meal plan. How often do we consciously teach them to prepare this food themselves? It goes a long way, because if a child can stand up, okay, if you're saying you have to eat the right food while they are with you, you make all the arrangements, you make all the preparation. Floptor pecan, hello. You make all the arrangements, you get all the meal plan. How about the day they leave your side? If they leave your side, are they able to make these preparations? Are they able to organize this food? Are they able to feed the way you have set the goals for them? Not because they don't know what is right, but because they don't even know how to prepare them. They don't even know where to find them. They don't even know the right combinations. You are so engrossed in making them independent in terms of daily living, independent in terms of being able to do their self-care routines, how often has it occurred to you that even for a child to function properly, they need to feed well? And in terms of that, how often have you sat down to really teach them how to make these choices and make these foods available? Of course, you may think, she's just talking about what she knows. Yes, this is my area, and that is why I am addressing it. If you are a parent and your child has a disability that still allows them to hold utensils to an extent, please do your very best to make them know how to prepare basic foods. You won't know how bad this is until you realize that your adult child, your teenage child cannot help themselves at all when it comes to feeding. And believe me, especially for those who have boys on the spectrum, people will take advantage of them just in the name of being the only one who can feed them. Yes, people will take advantage of older adults, especially males, just in the name of being the only one who can put food on the table for them. Even when you know that with their level of disability, they would have still been able to prepare these foods. There will be conditions when you realize that this person is probably toxic to your child, to their mental health, to their physical health, but you believe that because that person is the only person that will be making food available to them, you are making it possible for them to remain in their space. But if your child, as much as possible, can fix little things like, boiling, steaming, warming, preparing, setting tables, believe me, a lot of things would be, avoided, whether now or in the future. The point here is, if your child is still within that age, teachable age, I'm not saying anybody cannot be taught, but some of these things are things you build up as a habit. You build them up when the child is still young. You make it a habit that they should be around you in the kitchen when you are making foods. As much as the environment permits, take them along when you go to market to pick the foods. Let them see what you are picking. Let them see how you pick them. Let them see what goes into your basket. And when they are home, make them available in the kitchen. Even if they are not participating, believe me, they are watching. Their brain is soaking it up. And the more often you do it, the better it soaks. So even if you are not convinced that they know what is going on, just give them the benefit of doubt. I have seen it very many times when our children tend to do things you never even imagined they would do. You will be the one like, oh, I never knew he could do that. And you'll be so excited. Believe me, they can do much more than you give them credit for. If you are here and you think we are saying what is relevant, please give us a thumbs up. So this afternoon, because we had this conversation yesterday, I think this will be, putting it in the face of someone. I know it's one of those things that maybe you jack up at night and then it hits you and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen when this child is older? You kind of get worried, you kind of get, concerned that, oh my God, I don't know how this child is going to cope when they are older and I'm probably not there anymore. The siblings are on their own. They have their wives or their husbands to care for. What's going to happen to my child with disability? Yes, these things cross your mind in that wee hours when worry is creeping. But when you wake up, you probably will just get carried away with the daily activities of getting them to be in school, getting them to, just getting along with the daily activities and what the days usually require. But today, I am bringing it to your face because it also concerns me. It's something that I have to deal with on a daily basis, and it always pays to bring it to, to the forefront, to be able to say, look, I am doing this consciously. I have to do this consciously. It's not something that just comes and flies. It is something that you have to mark somewhere and say, I have to do this consciously because time is flying. This child is growing. I am getting old. Yeah, at some point you would get old and you won't be able to help them the much you are doing right now. Let that fear ginger you to make it a duty, to call it a duty. Let the fear of what will happen when you are no longer there be your fuel to do it now. Ask yourself, how often am I exposing this child to what needs to be done when I am not there? Am I fully carried away by getting them to do these other things? Because if a child is actually going to, thank you for liking it, just give us a thumbs up. If a child is likely going to be talking tomorrow, doing a job tomorrow, which is what we all hope for, going to school tomorrow, he definitely will be feeding, right? Before a child can even sit quietly in class, he or she has to feed well. How are you preparing this child to be able to put food on their table when you are not there? Take a minute, think about it. At some point in their lives, they will need to fend for themselves. And I am not oblivious of the extent of disability here. I am talking about those who definitely can do it. We as parents tend to be carried away trying to get them to do every other thing except preparing them for their nutrition. We tend to get carried away trying to make them speak, trying to make them walk, or trying to make them study, trying to make them play some arts, trying to make them swim, trying to make them interact, except trying to make them cook their own food. Without good food, the child is going to be much more, less susceptible to every other improvements going around them. And like I said earlier in this video, a time will come when you might be compelled to leave a toxic individual in their space just because that person is the only person that puts food on their table. Just because that person is the only person that prepares food and puts on their table. Would you want to do that? Please, if you're a parent and you have a child with a certain level of disability, if that child can definitely hold utensils, make it a point of duty today to start teaching them how to prepare their own food, how to make their own food. By the way, this discussion took place in a program we call Building Bridges. Our Building Bridges program is actually meant for girls on the spectrum. But believe me, this topic is for everyone. It is for every father, every mother, and will benefit every child out there that someday will be left alone to fend for themselves, with or without a carer, because their nutritional intake, status, fulfillment will definitely be depending only on their carer. So, thank you for listening to me today. I hope to be seeing you more often. I don't know why, but yeah, definitely more often. Have a lovely weekend. This weekend, we will still have some things to talk about. Bye-bye. Thank you for dropping by. Just give us a thumbs up. We are already done for now. We talked about teaching your children to prepare their meal, because at some point, it's going to depend on how well they can do that. A lot of things are going to depend on how well they can feed and fend for themselves. Flop topic and flop topic and thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye. I'm already done. See you later.